This is Booking It to Financial Freedom, show number 24.
I was jumping in, looking at the credit, looking at the pay stubs, looking at the bank statements. I was doing all of that, analyzing. I don't even look at that anymore. So the team is doing that.
As you've been able to grow the business here, it's gotten easier because of what you've done.
Oh, it's gotten so much easier.
I noticed a dramatic shift in just like the volume you were able to do, the amount of customer service you were able to provide.
I never wake up and go, ugh, I've got to go to work today. It's literally like, fine, let's see, what do we have today?
Welcome to Booking It to Financial Freedom, where we explore literature from some of the most successful experts in their field to help you build a blueprint for personal growth and financial freedom. Join us as we examine a new book every month and break down key concepts to help you get out of the rat race and on track to start building a life better than you ever imagined.
Hey everyone, I'm your host, Amanda Schneider, realtor and investor, and I'm here with my co-host and teammate, Jamie Booth. Hey, Jamie.
Hey, Amanda, how are you doing? I'm sitting here trying to dry out.
Yeah.
I know we've tended to talk about the weather a lot over the last episodes, but
yeah.
You know, we had our guest on Bryan today, and we started the episode and he had to walk through a downpour to get into the studio. So he was concerned about the raindrops on him and stuff. But yeah, it continues to rain in Colorado.
It does. We've just decided we're going to implement a weather update.
We should do that.
Episode.
Yeah. Who cares about a market update in the real estate world? We can just do the weather.
The weather in Colorado. But yeah, if you watch the video, you'll see that Bryan's shirt was speckled with raindrops. So
yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, that's a good one. So before we introduce our guests, we wanted to make sure that we introduce the next book because this is our last episode for Who Not How. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So the next book that we're going to be covering on the podcast, and we forgot our little stand here, is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And I'm actually really excited to cover this book. It's another one of the ones that I know you and I have probably read a couple different times. Mm-hmm. So a lot of good stuff in this book. I think that people will find a lot of value out of it. And that's what we hope that we do with all of our books that we cover. But yeah, definitely looking forward to covering this over the next few episodes.
And something I wanted to, I was just looking at this one, but there is, because this is an older book. I mean, it's an older
book, yeah. This is the 25th anniversary edition right here.
And I think this is, because I'm listening to an audio book, they have one with his son who does the intro and kind of talks about growing up with Stephen Covey, which I thought was really cool. And then he implements some updates throughout the book. So if you haven't bought the book yet, maybe look for the most recently published one. You'll still get all the good stuff of the old one, but you'll get some updates as well.
Yeah, which will be the one we're covering as well. So just might be a little bit of additional information if you have an older copy.
Absolutely. Great. Well, let me introduce Bryan. So Bryan Yaninek, I'll read his bio here in a minute, but he is a lender with Guaranteed Rate. He's one of the first lenders that I met when I got my real estate license, and he's just been outstanding support to our team. We have several lenders that we always recommend to people as our due diligence so people can make the right fit. But Bryan has just been in the industry for so long and knows so much that when we have those really hard cases, especially, I'm like, Bryan is the expert. So
yeah, it's great to have a lender that's local. Obviously, there's value to that. They know the market, and Bryan responds instantly. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is. We need an answer to a question, and there's never a delay in communications. Bryan's amazing.
Yeah, and the reason we wanted to bring him on specifically for Who Not How, and you'll listen to it in the interview, but he and Chris, who run their branch of Guaranteed Rate, specifically implemented a process that is almost exactly the principles taught in Who Not How, where everyone has their lane and their specialty, and they hire specifically based on that. Mm-hmm. So, all right, let me read Bryan's bio. So Bryan Yaninek has over 28 years of experience in the mortgage business, consistently ranking in the top 1% of loan officers nationwide. Bryan has earned the distinction of being one of the top 5 VA loan officers in the state of Colorado and consistently ranked among the top 20 loan officers in the entire country. Beyond his personal accomplishments, Bryan has played a pivotal role in shaping the success of others. As a seasoned professional, he has dedicated time and effort to mentoring and training numerous producers, helping them achieve remarkable results, including reaching the prestigious $100 million mark in production. One of Bryan's greatest strengths lies in his comprehensive understanding of mortgage guidelines. With an unwavering commitment to staying up to date with the industry regulations, he possesses an exceptional ability to navigate complex files and find innovative solutions, even in challenging situations where others have faltered. So something, that's a long bio, but Bryan's a pretty impressive person. Something I really love is that middle paragraph where it talks about like, not only has he personally achieved a lot, but part of his accomplishment is helping others to achieve their goals and their high standards in the lending industry, which is a lot of what Who Not How is being that who for other people.
Directly correlates to some of the lessons that are taught in the book. So it's really cool to see it like firsthand, especially with his move over to guaranteed rate and what they're doing now.
Yes.
Like we've seen his transition and literally implementing some of the concepts into this to grow his business even further. So it's amazing stuff.
Yeah, great. Let's bring on Bryan.
Come on.
Hey, Bryan, welcome to the podcast. We're so happy to have you. We're just laughing because we always do 10 seconds of silence before we start.
Yeah,
Bryan is over here meditating.
Right. Get myself prepared.
Yeah.
And go.
So we wanted to specifically have you on the podcast because you are obviously our preferred lenders, our lender as being real estate agents. You're
not plural.
No, true. Only you. Yeah, you're the one that we go to because you've been in the industry for almost 30 years. And so especially if we have a hard file, like you are the one that can figure it out.
Right. I can do the easy ones too, which is
well,
cool.
you can, yes. But yeah, there's not a lot of lenders that have the knowledge.
On the real estate side, I can't emphasize how valuable it is to have a local lender for your transaction. I have clients that are still trying to close on a house right now, and they're like, yeah, now I see why you recommended a local lender. And I'm like, yep, because sometimes, especially dealing with someone nationwide or out of state can be a horrible pain in the butt to get any kind of answers or feedback. So yeah, always go with a great local lender if you can.
Yeah, or at least somebody who knows the market, because I think you're trying to get, or have you already gotten your nationwide license?
Yeah, so I just took my 20 hours of continuing education, got that done. Or not continuing education, I guess it's my pre-licensing education. So that's done. I just need to take the national exam again. I took it back in like 08 or 10, and then they changed it in 2016. Oh. So I have to retake that. Then once that's done, I can do all the states. So nothing against a local lender, but it's a good lender, period.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what's so crucial is, because we at our office, with my business partner, we do, Georgia, Florida, Texas, Tennessee, North Carolina. But we have the same process across the country. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. Awesome. But again, one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on is just kind of the structure that you've implemented in your office. So when you moved with Guaranteed Rate a couple years ago, because you used to be a broker, and we've been working together for 5 years, but I noticed a dramatic shift in just like the volume you were able to do, the amount of customer service you were able to provide. And can you kind of talk about how that correlates to the Who Not How book and how you've basically assigned each person in your office their specific lane?
Yeah, absolutely. So the book talks about, the who, not how kind of a deal where, you are putting the correct people in the correct seat of the bus. And then we're very good about that. We have hired some people, they didn't work, and we tried to move into a different seat.
Right.
Didn't work. So they're no longer there. Some other people were in a certain seat on the bus. It didn't work. They went to a new position and they flourished. So we do really pay attention to that a lot. And that was kind of the difference. So as a broker, it was basically me and my processor, Tina. And, I'm doing all the apps, the pre-quals, pulling credit, running LP and DU, the automated system. I'm checking bank statements and just every single thing. And then 3 more phone calls would come in. And I'm like, I've got to finish this other pre-qual before I can get to this other one.
Yes.
So the way that Chris and I have it set up now is we basically have like a pre-qual team. So Chris and I will still do like the 15 to 20 minute initial call where we're finding out where they work. Do they have any job gaps, any weird thing up front? And we kind of already know probably 98% of what file that's going to fit into for which loan program. So then we ask the borrower to please go to our website, do the actual application. And that's where we have our team will basically jump in and it pulls credit. They'll do the LP, the DU. Those are the underwriting engines. And then they'll get that approved and say, ooh, we need an extra bank statement, or we need your pay stubs. Oh, shoot, you're commissioned, or you're this, and it might trigger different conditions. Oh, you also have a self-employed business. You have rental income. Now we need tax returns. So they're doing that super defined fine-tuning where I'm kind of like a 30,000-foot person where I can kind of narrow it down. But then when it gets to microeconomics versus macro, I'm the macro guy. And our team is great at the micro. They really file that in, and it makes it for real good success.
Yeah.
Well, one thing you said there that I really like is and we were talking about this last episode is, I was telling a military story where a lot of time you inherit teams that you don't get to handpick. In the book, they talk about getting the right who's on your team. going out, searching, finding those people who are really good at whatever it is you're looking for them to do. I like the fact that you said you pulled people in and then you realized that they weren't necessarily the best at the job, and you were able to move them over to something that they were really good at. And I was talking about that when we were talking about developing teams, is a lot of time about being a good leader is being able to recognize people's strengths and weaknesses. So the fact that you were able to shift those people over to be, to do a job much more productively than what they were maybe intended to do.
Correct.
So, you basically fine tune the team by doing that, and you get more productivity out of that.
Well, something they talk about in the book is that, yes, you're trying to find who's for yourself, but you're always a who for someone else. So for those people that you're developing, you're their who. You're helping them know what their strengths and weaknesses are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
by recognizing that they have strengths in something else, you're doing them a favor, right? So
Yeah, it was kind of neat. I liked when that had that question. I was looking at that. I was like, they're my who's to help me get large deposits on a bank statement verified, getting gift funds done, whatever we're doing. Like they're my who that does that great job. But then literally like the next day they have some funky, weird scenario that came up on a loan, and I'm the who. We have an interoffice text message chain with like 20 people on it. That's where everybody asks those questions. It's like, hey, let's see what he says. Like, what's the answer to this one? I see those questions all the time. I even get underwriters from our company that will call me on different files that aren't even mine.
wow.
And that's pretty, kind of a little ego boost.
Yeah.
Where someone calls and says, like, hey, this isn't your loan, but can I run a scenario by you real quick? What do you think about this one? And I'm like, wow, they're calling me.
Oh, yeah, I love that. It reminds me of my time when I was a first sergeant in the Air Force. And that's what I loved about how being the first sergeant council, same scenario is like, something really crazy would pop up. Some bonehead would do something really crazy and be like, hey, and they'd call you up like, hey, dude, let me run this by you. Have you ever dealt with this before? And a lot of times, sometimes it'd be like, no, but let's figure this out,
Right.
Yeah. So we talked about it before we started filming, but just when you were a broker in the broker world and you were kind of saying how you would work until 9 or 10 at night, and Chris was like, what the heck are you doing?
Oh yeah. He'd call me up to ask about some loan or something he's doing or whatever else. He's like, how's it going this month? And then I'm just like, I've got like 2 more files to finish tonight. I'm heading home. He's like, it's like 9:41, dude. What are you doing at the office? I was like, I just told you I have 2 more loans I've got to finish.
Yeah.
He's like, I've been home since 4, and our volume was very similar. And he was home 5.5 hours earlier because he'd already had that team concept being built up. And I was just still like that, trying to let go. Do I hire someone? And we finally did at the old company, we did hire a guy in Philadelphia that would help with some of the setup of the loan once it was under contract. So he would input the loan program, the sales price, the loan amount, I think property address, and maybe go through the fees. He would send it to me and I'd be like, yep, that's good. And I would still disclose the loan. And he finally raised his hand and was like, I could disclose that for you too. I have no problem. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Let me slowly let go of a little bit more control. And it's just like that gradual process that I kind of let that stuff go. So it was neat to do that.
Well, and what I hear from that is the theme of decision fatigue in the book of, if you are working, because I know you start early in the morning because I text you at 6 a.m. and you respond to me. So, I mean, if you're working 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., when you're working on that last file at 9 p.m., like, do you really have the brain power to give to that last file as the one you did when you started in the beginning? I mean, there's only so many decisions and so many things your brain has the power to work on in a day. So if you're trying to do all of it, some of those people might get the short end of the stick.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm luckily that my brain kind of keeps going at a crazy pace.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. If anyone sees the video, they see all the energy you have.
So I do pretty good, but I can see like where it's like, double check this. You get ready to print it and it says, oh, you have 2 errors. I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot to go double check that. So it is. When earlier you might be like super fresh and you can just hit through it, but it's definitely that later file.
Yeah, and I wasn't in any way implying that that's how you operate. I'm just saying in general, like as people, we can only make so many decisions in a day, and then eventually we have to stop.
Reminds me of the last book we covered where they were talking about the parole judges.
Yes.
Where and they were talking about decision fatigue and all that stuff, and the fact that your willpower is limited. In the story, they were saying that the parolees who were stood before the judges in the morning had like a god-awful higher percentage chance of being granted parole, because as the judges became tired throughout the day, their decisions started defaulting to just no because they had the decision fatigue. So the parolees who were seeing the judges in the afternoon had almost zero chance of being granted parole as opposed to the ones that were doing it in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So your brain just starts to default as you get fatigued, you start just kind of going into that, no mode or whatever it is for what you're doing. So yeah, it's important.
Can you talk a little bit about how has moving to this type of structure, has it given you more freedom of time, like personal time and more time with your family and being able to do the things you wanted to do because you're more efficient with doing
Oh, for sure. I can already tell that. So when I do that first initial call, and then I used to wait for the application to come in, and I was jumping in, looking at the credit, looking at the pay stubs, looking at the bank statements. I was doing all of that, analyzing. I don't even look at that anymore. So the team is doing that. And we have this really neat spreadsheet that we created to do that. So at the end of each pre-qual, an actual email will come out to all the members of the team. It'll say, Doug Johnson, have his name, his contact information, email address. And we kind of edit this letter about every 3 to 4 months just to kind of tweak it. But then all of those notes are in there. The guy's moving from Philadelphia to Denver, same company or a job transfer. We have all of it laid out that way. Like if a listing agent calls me on a Sunday at 3, hey, Doug Johnson just applied for to put an offer on my home. Can you tell me how good he looks? Yeah, 1 second. Oh, there it is, Doug Johnson. Oh, I can read the pre-qual notes to you.
Yeah.
And I can say, yep, we have W-2s, we have pay stubs, we have bank statements. We've already run him through the automated system. He's approved. He's a great borrower. That's been huge on me. Before I was doing all of that stuff.
Wow.
I was creating that worksheet. I was typing all that data in. I was running the numbers. All of that's off my plate. So now I'm available to talk to the clients about any questions that they have or different scenarios or structuring loans. I'm not doing that remedial, super intense, detail-oriented task anymore. So that's helped a ton.
So I'm sorry. Being able to relinquish a lot of that responsibility, have you found that it's gotten easier over time? Because they do kind of talk about that in the book about people who are high achievers tend to want to take on all the tasks themselves because they want that control. They want, they want oversight and all that stuff. So as you've been able to grow the business here and put these people around you, are you still struggling with, not taking on those tasks, or have you found that it's gotten easier because of what you've done?
Oh, it's gotten so much easier because at the beginning it was like, did you double check if they have child support? Did you double check if they have alimony? Did you double check this? They're like, yes, we did all that. I'm like, what about this? They're like, we did that too. So as I did it, it got easier and easier, especially with the volume's down a little bit, like current, at the market. But gosh, during that time we're bringing in like 100, 200 applications a month. It really gives them that training. I mean, they were just turning and burning 100 to 200 pre-quals a month. You get some pretty fast training doing that. So, but for sure, I've seen that just get dialed in really, really well. So, and then sometimes I'll even ask them questions about stuff up front, and they'll tell me, oh, no, we went with this program because of this. So now they're actually so well trained that they're actually thinking through it and out of the box, because a lot of them see how I kind of think things through, and they're already doing that automatically now, which has been just great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. They talk about one of the books that talks about freedom of time. So that's been able to grant you a lot of your time back, and I'm sure that's probably a pretty good feeling.
Well, what's funny is just having known you for the last 5 years, I know you don't like to not be doing something, right. But from an outsider, it's at least because your wife lives out of state. So you guys travel a ton to see each other. So I've at least seen in your transition of implementing this that you have more time to spend with her and go see her and take the kiddos and stuff. Where before, I mean, if you're working every day until 9 p.m., what kind of quality time are you spending, even if you are physically with her? Yeah,
like my 20-year-old now, he says the same thing. He's like, we didn't get to take these trips. We didn't get to go to these fun stuff when I was younger. I was like, I had to do everything. I was doing the apps, the pre-quals, the loans, the closing. I said, literally everything was on my plate. And if I did try to take a week or two off, your volume just shrunk to nothing. And then you had to build yourself back up. Your 1 week vacation would end up, costing you 6 weeks of production. One time I did take a trip. I had left my business to a guy that worked at my same company. He worked his loans. People that called for my stuff, he was like, oh man, I'm sorry, I was just too busy. I couldn't get to those. I'm like, okay, never taking that vacation again.
Yes.
Right? And I just didn't even think about that concept. I mean, back then I should have hired someone to really be like that true assistant, but I was probably too much of a control freak where they don't know it as much as I do, or they can't do it as good as me. I just never did it.
Well, and some people are just afraid to spend the money. So I feel like you're a great example of, if you invest in bringing in some amazing who's, your money is going to, double, triple, et cetera. Like, yes, you're spending money, but you're doing that to make more money. And it's actually making you more money and giving you like more time, which is what everybody wants.
Right. My old manager at my old company, he runs, the division of his bank here. I've been telling him for 3 years he needs an assistant because he'll check a couple of hundred stupid, irrelevant emails all day long. Like he just needs someone in there that's like, nope. Here's your 6 out of 200 emails. It's same thing. It's like spend a little bit of money and get some freedom back. And he just works, all day long. The time that he's going home at night, he is that decision fatigue he has spent. If he had someone to cover that, he would be in such a better place.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes that little bit of money can be hundreds of hours that it's saving you too, though. So you got to think about in our business where time is money, that's a huge, huge return by just spending a couple $1,000s to pay an expert to do something for you.
100%. Yeah, I think one of the questions talked about, I think it was like laundry, cleaning.
Yes.
So I remember, gosh, this is a long time ago. This was probably back in 03 or 04. And I had a fairly, good sized yard, and someone had questioned me like, oh, you have someone mow your yard for you? Why? That's a waste of $30. I'm like, no, it's like a quarter of an acre, half-acre lot. It's going to literally take me an hour and a half to mow it, dump the grass in the can, mow it, dump the grass in the can. It literally would be like a 2 to 3 hour episode. Then my trash can was full of grass. The garage stinks all week. And I was like, for the 2 hours that person is mowing my yard, I could have gotten one loan in, one pre-qual in, just anything to make up for that money. Or even if I didn't, who cares? It was 3 hours a week that wasn't wasted on the yard. They had riding mowers. They came in, edge trimmed, blew it, gone, $35. They were out of there. Now today it's quite a bit more.
Right.
But it's so time efficient and stuff like that I could. And I remember that one time I had like 3 calls on a Saturday, and I was like, boom, I just paid for the mowing for the entire summer. Or the year. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Done. But people used to give me such a hard time about that back then. And I was like, no, it's like I'm worth more than $35 an hour. Like I make more than $35 an hour. So if it's anything that's below that level, I'm not doing it. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, and my argument too is, like you said, even if you aren't in that hour that someone's mowing your lawn, making the $35 back, there's a lot to say to just have some rest and recovery so that you can be your best at the job that you are the best at, so allowing yourself that downtime, because if we're just working, when it comes Monday and we're back in the office, we're not the best version of ourselves, and we don't give that best to our clients.
Yeah, so. I don't know if it was in a book or if it was an old tale, but there was something about a guy and an axe. And it was like, take 10 hours to sharpen his axe, an hour to cut wood.
It's George Washington, I believe.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Something crazy.
He said if he had to cut down a tree, he would spend, and it was going to take 12 hours, he'd spend 10 hours sharpening the axe or something like that.
Yeah. And that's what that reminds me of. So it's like that downtime, like when I was meditating when we started. It is. It's like getting that prep, getting that ready to go for that little bit of boom, and off you go.
And it doesn't even have to be about making money too. That could be time you're spending with your family.
Yes.
Right. If you have to spend 3 hours mowing your yard on a Sunday, that could basically ruin the entire Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Spend $35. Now you can just walk away. You have the whole Sunday with your family, and you can go do the important things in life, right? So
good point.
So this is a question I'm curious how you're going to answer it. I feel like I know the answer, but so one thing they talk about in the book is designing buffers to be able to for people to get to you or even use your time. So they give this example of Anna, this entrepreneur who was just exhausted all the time because she was giving her time to everyone that asked for it. And she was answering all the emails. She was doing all the things. And you are always very available, which is what we love about you as agents, because if we need something, like, you answer our phone calls and love that. Have you designed any type of system where others kind of filter who can have access to you? Because maybe other people don't deserve, if that's the right word, your time as much as others do, and if they're getting your time, then it's time you can't spend with people that maybe deserve your time more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever gotten to that level.
Or maybe it's not needed necessarily. I don't know.
Even during the big refi boom, when we're doing, like I said, 100 loans a month, I never got to my limit yet.
Sure.
So, but I have seen some people that do that where, like, their personal cell phone is no one has it. Like, they always have that assistant gets that call first. And like, oh, then let me see if Donna is available today, right? And then it's like you never can get to that person.
Right.
I think that all the agents I work with, if they could never get to me, they would use a different lender.
No, I agree
so I've
with
always thought that way. So I'm not off access at all. And I think I'm super efficient, where they think they have a hard, super complicated file. And in seconds, I know the answer.
Yeah.
Where they thought it was going to be like this 30, 45-minute phone call. I'm just like, oh, hey, this guideline allows for this, this, and this. And they're like, oh, well, I guess that's all I needed. Thanks, bye. And then they're done. They were preparing for like a 30, 45-minute thing. It was 30 seconds. It was a minute. So I haven't gotten to that stage in life yet where I have so many calls or so much volume. I just haven't gotten
Does
to
anyone go through your emails for you, or do you go through?
Nope,
Really? Because I
everything's
know
myself.
you get like a lot of emails as well.
Yeah,
Sorry.
hundreds a day.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well,
probably.
interesting.
Yeah, I think I've
Well,
seen.
he's just got a lot of energy.
He does. I would say you are kind of an exception to some.
Little bit of superhuman strength in that.
No, I agree.
But it's just super fast. I mean, you can look to see what you've got, and it just.
And honestly, this book is all about identifying what it is you like and don't like to do. So, I mean, if you're fine with all of that and it's not zapping your energy like it would for some people, then obviously that's great.
Right.
So, one thing they do talk about, though, is the joy of procrastination in this book, where if you have a task that's normally part of like your daily or weekly routine that you're always put off until the last minute, that's possibly an indication that you need to find a who for that specific item. Do you have anything in mind that you've found like you were constantly procrastinating on, and then you're like, you know what, I'm just going to have so-and-so do it, and now maybe your workload is that much better?
So the only thing I kept putting off was my stupid national exam.
Okay.
So
Nobody can study for that.
Yeah, I had to put in that 20 hours. I knew every time I was getting ready to register for it, volume would pick back up. Something else would come up. Something would happen here. And you had to have that 20 hours done in like a 7-day or a 14-day period of time. And it was just one of those mental things. And so I finally was just like, okay, I'm done. I registered for it, started on a Friday, had to just knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
So that was the only thing that I've ever come across. I was like,
Interesting.
but I couldn't pass that task on.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Going back to the lawnmower, are there other people that you have in your life, not necessarily business, but cleaners or et cetera, other people you found who's that make your life more efficient for you?
Yeah, like I said, I have a house cleaner that comes about once a week at the house. They'll kind of like, I'm not bad at doing laundry as far as cleaning it. I cannot stand folding and putting laundry away. So I'll do like 10 loads, throw them into the guest bedroom on the bed. Then she comes. Yeah, when she comes by like once a week, folds everything, puts it all away.
I need that in my life.
That's been a godsend. I just hate folding.
I'm the same way. I don't have any problem washing it. That's the whole putting it away part.
So it's folding and putting it away is just, I hate it. So I have that. And then that's pretty much all I really have. So I'm in a little town home right now, just because it's a little bit easier for living situation right now. But yeah, don't have to do any of the yard work.
Yeah, that is kind of a who though, because you specifically wanted to move to a townhome so that you didn't have any lawn maintenance, et cetera. So
I guess the HOA kind of covers that itself.
Yeah. No, I think that's wonderful. And I think too many people think you have to be at a certain income level or whatever to get some of these who to help you. But again, they just have to, it's all about priorities. And if having a clean house and an organized house helps you operate more effectively and efficiently because you like having a clean house, but you don't love doing it yourself, like you have to understand the benefits of that and what you can be doing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just have such a hard time seeing past the monetary
they do.
cost of it as opposed to the payoff in the end. It's kind of, it's like, oh, I can't spend $35 to do that. That's horrible. It's like, but you know what? Look at the value that it adds to your life in the end, especially if it's something you dread.
Yes.
If you really hate cleaning your house, and I'm sure you can find affordable house cleaning wherever you're at, right? So,
well, and something I found too is that once you invest in it, like you don't ever notice that money again too, because we have somebody who comes every 2 weeks to clean too, and at first it's like, do I really want to spend $100 or $150 every time? The first time she did, I'm like, this is amazing, and now I don't even notice that money. Like I don't know, it's funny.
I don't know if it was this book or one of the prior books we covered, but the guy had he had like. Maybe it was this book, like 16 or 17 or some god-awful amount of people that he considered on his team, but they basically had automated most of his life cleaning the yard, like the whole 9 yards. And he had somebody driving for him because he realized that all of the time that he spent driving to meetings was time wasted. So he stopped driving himself. He hired a driver, or he used Uber or whatever. So when he would show up to his business meetings, he was able to review while the guy was driving him there. He was fresh. He was able to go into the meetings, like knock him out of the ballpark. So everything he could to like just basically automate his life so he could concentrate on the most important things. It was pretty crazy. I know a lot of people out there listening probably aren't in a position to have like 15 different people doing things for you, but even if one or two can improve your life overall, it's worth it.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah. I think about if I'm driving to the airport or whatever else, it's an hour and 20 minutes from the house. Man, I'd love to have someone do that because that's a lot of time that you lose.
Yes.
So that is huge.
And then you hit traffic and it's 2 hours.
Yeah. And then plus the time that I park and then get the bag and then run to, through the airport. I mean, that's like an extra 10, 20 minutes versus having someone drop you right off at curbside and off you go. It's a pretty big efficiency.
I agree. So another thing in this book is they have an example of somebody who he has 10 questions that he asks himself on a regular basis of how he knows he's being successful.
Yes.
And I was just curious if either any of those questions resonated with you or if you yourself have ones that you ask yourself that you're being successful. So like one of his is, I wake up every day and ask myself, what would I like to do today, rather than having something very structured and rigid.
I know. That one I love because I think anyone would want to be in that situation. You've designed your life to where you're a point where you can be like, freedom of choice. Whatever. I don't have to go to an office. I don't have to do whatever. And just if I want to, go on an all-day hike, I can. Yes. I think that's freedom. That's real wealth right there.
Yeah. I think I've been kind of spoiled because this is my 28th year in the business. I've never had a 9-to-5 job, an 8-to-5. Back when I was in college, I worked at a restaurant as a server. That's about the only job that had to have specific times or shifts I had to be there. And it's funny because I think about that all the time because I think my kids have gotten a little bit spoiled about it. It's like, hey, I need a ride here, I need a ride there. They're so used to me being able to come and go or whatever else. But sometimes I'm like, well, I'm in a meeting today. Wait, so you can't come get me at 3? and it's kind of like weird to them because I'm usually available or whatever else. But that is a big one that I've had because like this morning I had to meet one of the builders had to come by and do something at the house this morning. I was totally fine to stay there at 9 o'clock this morning. They came and left by 9:30, had a closing at 10 o'clock, and I was able to do all of that stuff. It was no problem whatsoever to do that. Where other jobs where you've got to be when your company opens at 8 o'clock, you had to be at your computer with your key, and it's 8 o'clock and you start working, and then it's 4 o'clock and you log out. I would not work well in that environment at all.
Yeah. So success to you is being able to make your own schedule and being available to your family.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think another one that they had listed on here was I can live anywhere, I can work from anywhere. And I feel like for the most part you can. Like obviously you do some in-person meetings and stuff, but if you need to spend a week, with your wife in Oklahoma or whatever, you can because you can. That's how you've designed your job is to be able to do it from anywhere.
Oh, absolutely. Same thing with her financial advisor. A lot of her stuff is just phone calls as well. Sometimes the people do want to come in and meet with her directly, but we took the kids to Disney for Christmas this year, and we were both like on the phone quite a bit of the time that we were down there. But then there was a good 2-3 hours of checkout time, and then right back to maybe a couple of phone calls. But they're always quick, 5-minute, 10-minute calls. It doesn't ruin your whole weekend that you're there. It's a few minutes here and a few minutes there, versus being stuck in an office behind a desk in a cubicle. I don't have to have that world at all.
I'm curious about that, kind of going off of our outline here, but because you and your wife both do, a lot of your business is on the phone. Do you guys ever draw boundaries when you're together? Like, okay, no more phone time, or we're going to go out to eat. We're not going to have our phone available. Or do you find that your job kind of requires you to always have your phone? And are you both okay with that? Because it's both how you operate.
Say if you're both on the understanding that that's cool, that's usually fine. But I know like my wife gets irritated sometimes. We'll be at dinner and I'll be like, trying to answer clients, and she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, client.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just texting to text. Right. Like I feel like I have to answer this question right now. So
time sensitive.
I think I use that common sense there. Because sometimes, if it's just someone that just wants to ask some random question about something in 45 days, probably not a need to get that call.
Yes.
If someone's closing the very next day, I'm like, oh, hey, hang on a second. This person's closing tomorrow or Friday. Let me grab it real quick. A lot of times those calls are 30 seconds. They're 45 seconds. So it's usually not too bad. Or if they're like, hey, I got like this whole scenario to run by you real quick. I'm like, great, I'm at dinner. Let me call you when I get into the car.
Yeah.
So we kind of have that set up. And she has the same thing on her world, where she's like, oh, I can call that client back tomorrow. It's nothing urgent. Or, oh, hang on a second. This guy's got a super crazy important thing that he's been working on. Let me see if it's okay. And again, it's same thing. It's just a couple of minutes. But since that's been my whole world, it doesn't seem weird. Because I remember maybe it's been like 10, 15, 20 years ago, used to have cell phones. Answering them was like so faux pas. Like they would show all these commercials where someone would grab their phone and answer it at a dinner or a swimming pool. and everybody would look at them and stare
Right.
at them. Now it's so common.
It is,
that
yeah.
It's just socially accepted that you're on your phone. You're going to take a quick phone call. So
Right.
For the most part, but there's still those people with the earbuds in, walking around like talking, having this full-on conversation in
You
the
can't
the
tell.
grocery store, like
Yeah.
no one else is there. And
You
that's
really need,
oh.
so loud.
Yeah, you can't even tell that they're on the phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Are you talking to me?" Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything. Do you have anything that you want to ask?
Yeah, well, kind of, because this is more or less a financial freedom thing. What did you think about the question that he asks himself about passive income flow exceeding your lifestyle costs?
No, I think that's great. That's always been, I think, a goal of a lot of people I know. Is like, even as a little kid, I wish I would have pushed myself harder. But I went to something in Las Vegas with my parents and met some financial guy, and he said, you want to open a storage unit, one of those coin-operated car washes, and I can't remember the third one. It was something else, but they were just cash businesses. I just wish I could look back, 30 years ago, and I wish I had opened a storage unit. I wish I had gotten one of those cash things, because they all do great. So that is one of those things that I look back at that kind of a time frame and kind of see what to do in those situations, because it's so cool, because now you get X dollars a month if it can pay your house payment, your car payment, your fun expenses just from passive income. Nothing else out of your checking account yet, and you haven't even gone to work yet that day, and you're completely covered. That sounds so cool. I have a lot of my friends are on YouTube that are doing very, very well. Same thing, like they literally just keep posting videos, and it pays all of their expenses. Like, how cool is that your passive income can cover your whole entire thing? Then everything you make from income can just go back into buying more investments, more whatever you have, and just don't spend any of it.
And you just summarized why we started this podcast,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Goes
That's
back
what we
to-
want to
yeah.
teach people is that
Huge.
that is possible. You don't have to go to an 8 to 5 job every day until you're 65. Like, there are ways. And speaking of, do you have specific goals in mind of you need to reach this amount and then you'll kind of stop working? Or knowing you, I can't imagine you like retired and not working, but like, is it an age threshold for you? Is it an income?
No, I mean, I met some guy the other day that was like 86 years old. He was still like structuring business deals and having fun.
Sure.
I mean, as long as I can think and function, I can't imagine
Yeah.
not. I could not picture myself like laying on a beach at 80 years old doing nothing.
Right.
I'd probably still be trying to find some investment to do, someone to do like angel investing with, buying a property. But yeah, I'll most likely work until the end.
And I think the goal is not having to work to
Right.
get to the point where you don't have to work, you want to.
Correct. And that's
Yeah.
how I am now.
Yeah.
I mean, when I look back and, I see people that retire at their job for 20 years. I mean, this is 28 years in the business. And I'm like, it feels like 3, 5, 7.
Wow,
Like
that's
it's
amazing.
not painful at all. It's fun. I get people into a home, making a family. They can have kids. Their kids get older. They go to a bigger home. Then their kids graduate high school. Then they sell that home. They go to a smaller home. Their kids that graduated high school call me and they want to buy a house. Like that whole cycle and bubble, it's so cool. I mean, what a neat job I have. I mean,
Absolutely.
I literally get people into a home. I'm not a, cremator at a cemetery. You know what I mean?
That would be so
I have a
depressing.
freaking cool job to
Yeah.
go to every day. Like
Agreed.
I never wake up and go, ugh, I've got to go to work today. It's literally like, fun. Let's see. What do we have today?
Yeah.
What do we got today? What's the challenge for today? What loans can we do? Who can we get into a home? Love it.
I just picture your alarm goes off and you like throw your hands in the air. I bet that's literally what you do because you just have so much energy and you're always so positive.
Right. I
So.
don't even set an alarm.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. I'm up. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's awesome.
My grandmother did that her entire life.
Didn't set an alarm?
She never had
Wow.
to
Yeah.
use an alarm. She would tell herself, I'm getting up at 5 tomorrow, and she
do
would
it.
get up.
Wow.
For sure. Sometimes my brain's earlier, like 3:30.
Yeah.
It's at 5. I'm like, no, you're good. It's 3:30. And it's over.
Yeah.
It's so hard for me to go back to sleep. Like it is brutally hard. So yeah, if I'm up at 3:30, it's game on from then on.
That's great.
It's wild.
So if anyone has any either lending needs or they just want to get a hold of you to kind of talk about the system that you and Chris have implemented in Guaranteed Rate, how can they get a hold of you?
So Instagram and TikTok and all those are just world's fastest loan officer.
Okay.
So those are easy there. And I was going to kind of do a little humble brag for you.
Do it.
But we had I think I showed you the thing. What was it, over like 300,000 views on one of my little videos we've done. So that's kind of neat on that.
Yeah, you're producing some really great short videos
Yes.
with like just really good information, 30 seconds to a minute long. So yeah, we will link all of that in the show notes.
Oh, that'll
people
be
can
so
check
cool.
it out. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just started that, and one of my friends, Jennifer, that works for Guaranteed Rate, she's actually the #1 VA lender in the entire country for females. She's #3, period. She kind of helped me set up with her guy that she's working with, and so I've just been kind of implementing what she's been doing.
That's awesome.
And she has just been setting it on fire. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to run behind her to try to get on that. But yeah,
That's great.
any questions that anyone has, they can just reach out to me there and DM me or whatever else.
Yeah, and do you mind if they email you?
Oh, sure. It's just BryanY@rate.com.
Perfect. Yeah. And so you're obviously licensed in Colorado, soon to be nationwide.
Yeah, soon to be nationwide. Can't wait.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Yeah. As always, thanks everybody for joining us. If you like the YouTube video, please like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment below if you have any questions about the content in today's episode. And don't forget that we're out there on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. So if you're driving around, you want to listen to us talk, you can get us there too. And as always, we really appreciate everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yep. See you next time.
Thank you.